My name is Samantha Medina, currently in PAD 747, Computer Applications and Technology, and the topic that I will be discussing is the use and misuse of the Internet by online offenders. As stated earlier in the semester in my TAB, my topic will predominantly be involving the use and misuse of the Internet by online offenders to solicit minors and how it has become an inevitable issue of eminent concern throughout the country, affecting the general population as a whole. The misuse of the Internet by online predators has become widely publicized, and it has become one of the forefront public policy concerns. Although there are currently agencies implemented by legislative systems such as the International Policing Agency Interpol's Child Abuse Image Database, it has only identified 620 out of 51,940 victimized children. What this means is that we need to come up with a new policy to be able to combat this problem that is only increasing throughout the general population. And the reason that it is increasing is because these prior sex offenders know that doing it through the internet is much smarter, much bolder, and it is an opportunity for them to be less likely to be caught. Online offenders target children between the ages of 2 and 16. The reason for this is because they feel neglected and isolated from the general population. They feel a sense of neglect, isolation, anger, rage, despair, revenge, and anonymity. The use of the internet to solicit these minors has become a reputed and prevalent concern throughout the nation due to the detrimental effects that have been imposed upon families, schools, society, and the general population as a whole. This problem is affecting everyone ultimately, as I stated earlier, because our children are everywhere. We need to be focused on where they are using the computer, be able to regulate it, control it, limit the amount of time they're spending on the internet, because children don't understand the consequences of their actions at that age. We're talking about ages 4 to 16, and at that age they are very vulnerable. They don't understand what can happen by being able to provide their information to a complete stranger until it's too late. Therefore, it falls upon the authority figures around them. So many sex crimes against minors, perhaps the majority, never come to the attention of law enforcement because by that time it is either too late, they're ashamed, or they feel that they feel threatened by their offender. 80% of internet crime relating to child pornography and or direct communication with a child are commercial in nature. Therefore, what this means is that the offending is occurring online. As stated earlier, once again, because it is easier, more accessible, and children are much more vulnerable on the internet as opposed to on the street. 80% of commercial online offending consists of children who are 10 years of age, 10% who are under 2 years of age, 33% who are between the ages of 3 and 6 years of age, and 37% who are between the ages of 6 to 10 years of age. If you look at the statistics and the percentages, the largest percentage is 37% between the ages of 6 to 10, which is the target age of using the internet. Those are the kids that use it the most. And oftentimes you'll find this percentage to incorporate children who are not regulated. Their computer use and internet access is not regulated. Females compose 75% of this percentage, and males compose 7%. 14% compose both. 80% had images explicitly showing sexual penetration of minors. Online offending is prone to occur in the following places: chat rooms, internet websites, social networking websites, Twitter, MySpace, Facebook. A way of being able to prevent this from occurring is by creating passcodes, which I will discuss a little bit later in my presentation. There are currently three typologies in which sex offenders are classified. The first is internet crimes against identified victims involving internet-related sexual assaults and other sex crimes such as the production of child pornography committed against identified victims. This is composed of 39% of arrests. The second is the prosecution of online offenders through the use of law enforcement. Therefore, detectives posing as children, chatting with them for a period of time, and ultimately setting up a day to meet with them, where at that time they would complete the arrest and hopefully prosecute the offender. And then the third is the possession, distribution, or trading of internet child pornography by offenders who did not use the internet to sexually exploit identified victims or solicit undercover investigators. Scholarly researchers state that there are four different typologies of human behavior in relation to sex offending. The first is etiological analysis. It is the hereditary and environmental factors which play a crucial role to the actions individuals take. Brain mechanisms is the next one, which inherently is influenced by the etiological factors. Neuropsychological analysis, which differentiates right from wrong and regulates brain behaviors. And symptom-based analysis, which may encompass prior experiences. There are two different types of models that incorporate sex offenders and why they might be doing this through the use of the internet. The first is the pathways model, which basically states that online offending occurs due to a feeling of social isolation, rejection, or when adult relationships are compromised. Therefore, for this reason, they choose to go to the most vulnerable population, which are our children. The next model is the Good Lives model, which basically states that online offenders can be cured through rehabilitation and treatment, but statistics have shown that this has been a failure. They always go back to sex offending, whether it is online and or whether it is physically. Researchers, psychologists, as well as law enforcement agencies and legislative administrative systems have tried to understand why it is that sex offenders are committing these crimes, what makes them commit these crimes, what tics they have that allow them to commit these crimes. And by better understanding their reasoning, we can implement stricter and bolder laws to try to prevent them from recommitting these acts. The key players in my paper include victims, online offenders, the state, the city, the federal government, internet, parents, and the Department of Education. Are online offenders new offenders, or are they prior sex offenders? 53% of the online offenders are typically younger, ranging between the ages of 24 to 44 years of age, who are Caucasian, 17% of whom are Hispanic, 12% consisting of African American descent, and 18% of whom are classified as other. 29% of online offenders have offended at some point prior in their lives without the use of technology. What this means is that online offenders know that luring children through the internet is much easier, much more convenient, and is in fact also much harder to get caught. Policy alternatives and or recommendations for online offending and a way to combat it is through the following acts. The Child Protector and Sexual Predator Punishment Act of 1998 was implemented. Internet services providers were mandated by the federal government to report any and all activities with respects to minors depicted on any websites and or emails. The Ashcroft versus Free Speech Coalition was implemented soon after in 2002, which made it inherently difficult to prosecute sex offenders who obtained, collected, or possessed virtual images for pornographic use. Basically, the law protected individuals from the right to privacy. This meant the general population as a whole, unfortunately, including sex offenders as well. Nonetheless, the cyber tip hotline was implemented as well, which was completely anonymous and allowed, um, people throughout the general population to be able to call if they knew or if they were suspicious of any activity, any inappropriate activities between a child and whether it was a family member, a friend, or anyone that looked suspicious in any way, shape, or form. The mandatory minimum sentencing law, which is only legal in certain states. Possible recommendation would be to implement this in every state. Specialized task forces, which sole purpose is to study sex offending, study the reasonings, as we stated before, as to why they offend, and to come up with better solutions. Although improving the expansion of online sex offending is politically feasible, it is timely. In addition, it takes time for new bills to become law, and many have died as they infringe upon the rights of Americans. We have to come up with a solution to be able to control and regulate the amount of offending that is occurring online, to children, while at the same time not infringing upon the rights to privacy. It is very complicated because we have to create laws that regulate this internet activity. Nonetheless, it needs to be taken much more seriously, and a possible recommendation would be not to allow sex offenders from utilizing a computer. The average of a child's first exposure to online pornography is 11. The largest consumers of online pornography are in the age group of 12 to 17. 90% of 8 to 16-year-olds have viewed pornography online, and most admit while doing their homework. 29% of the 7 to 17-year-olds said that they would give out their home addresses to others while online. We must enforce minimum mandatory sentences in every state. Most online offenders are seldom prosecuted, and if so, it is for very little time. Most parents do not even know that this is occurring. This is why it is very important that we must implement laws to regulate this crime from occurring. Parents also should take some part in preventing this from happening, such as creating passcodes, rules and regulations, / times as to when their children should be using the internet, adult supervision at all times, informing your children not to provide their email addresses, not to provide their phone numbers, or any other personal information. The reason why I have chosen the use and misuse of the internet is because the nation does not comprehend the impact that this very ambiguous crime is having on the nation. The country needs to be made more aware. As a general population, everyone should be involved in combating this issue. Parents, advocacy centers, guidance counselors, the Department of Education, Google, everyone should take part in this and try to implement preventative measures to try to prevent this from ultimately happening. It's a statistic that is drastically increasing by the day, and most which we do not even know about. Through awareness, there will be more action taken at a faster pace by the federal government and the states. Law enforcement agencies as well as legislative systems have globally made efforts to implement smarter and bolder laws to maximize the safety of minors on a national level.